At 6:37 a.m. on December 21st, 1944, Private First Class Francis Sherman Curry, a mere 19 years of age, huddled behind a crumbling stone wall in Normandy, Belgium, his young eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination, watched as 3 SS Panzer tanks lumbered towards the bridge. The sole barrier standing between Adolf Hitler's relentless offensive and the complete encirclement of 11,000 American soldiers trapped in our end. Orphaned since the tender age of 12, having enlisted at 17, and with only 90 days of combat experience etched onto his soul, the odds were stacked impossibly high against him. He lacked any formal anti-tank training. Yet he was about to face 3 menacing SS tanks, a swarm of 40 German infantry soldiers armed with a bazooka and a meager 4 rounds, and a looming deadline of just 20 minutes. Before the entire defensive line crumbled like sandcastles before the tide, Die Waffen SS, fueled by fanaticism and brutality, had just perpetrated a horrifying massacre of 81 American prisoners of war in a field a mere 3 kilometers away. Now, they were advancing directly towards Francis Curry, utterly unaware that they were about to encounter a young man who was on the verge of discovering something that every military manual deemed utterly impossible. He was about to make 40 German soldiers believe they were battling an entire platoon, moving so swiftly between positions that they couldn't possibly keep track of him. The bridge itself was a narrow stone structure, a relic from 1863, just wide enough for a single vehicle to pass at a time. If the Germans seized it, they would gain a direct route to the Allied supply lines. 11,000 American soldiers would be cut off, stranded without reinforcements, ammunition, or a means of escape. The entire Ardennes defensive perimeter would collapse within a mere 48 hours. K Company, 3rd Battalion, 119th Infantry Regiment, 30th Infantry Division, had already suffered a staggering 92% casualty rate in the past 72 hours. Out of an initial 147 men, only 13 remained capable of fighting. The rest were dead, wounded, or missing in action, swallowed by the brutal landscape of war. Captain Evan Curry's company commander had given him a direct order just 30 minutes earlier. Retreat to the secondary position, regroup with what remained of K Company, and allow the Germans to take the bridge. Command would figure out a solution later. Curry, his voice barely a whisper, had asked what would happen to the 11,000 soldiers if the bridge fell. Evan, his face etched with grim resignation, had replied that they would be surrounded, isolated, likely killed or captured within 2 days. Corey had then asked if surrendering to the SS was even an option. Evan had stared hard at him. December 17th, the Bouette Crossroads, 3 kilometers away. 120 American prisoners from the 285th Field Artillery Observation Battalion had surrendered to Camp Grouper Piper. 1st SS Panzer Division, the SS commander, Yoke Piper, had ordered his men to herd the Americans into an open field. Then, he had given the order to open fire. Machine guns, pistols, close range, executions. 81 Americans had been murdered, shot in the back, shot in the head, some feigning death, crawling away after the Germans had left. The Waffen SS did not take prisoners, they were executioners. Evan had said that surrender meant death, just like what had happened at Bound. A bullet to the head, a corpse left to freeze in the snow. Then Evan said something that changed everything. He said that the military manual stated that a single soldier with a bazooka could not stop 3 tanks, that staying at the bridge was suicide, that Curry would face a court-martial if he disobeyed a direct order, that obeying meant survival, disobeying meant certain death. Curry looked at the 3 SS tanks advancing on the bridge. He looked at the 40 German infantrymen using the tanks as shields. He looked at Evan. He said he'd rather face a court-martial than face the Germans unarmed. Evan glared at him. This 19-year-old orphan was about to disobey a direct order from a superior officer in combat. That was grounds for execution under military law. Evan said that if Curry stayed at the bridge, he was on his own. No support, no backup, no rescue. Curry said he had been on his own since he was 12 years old. This was nothing new. Evan departed, taking what remained of K Company with him, retreating to the secondary position half a kilometer away. Francis Curry was now alone. 1 soldier, 1 bazooka, 4 rockets, 3 SS tanks, 40 German infantrymen, and an idea that every military manual considered tactically insane. The lead tank was 280 meters away. A Panzer IV with 50 millimeters of frontal armor, a 75 millimeters main gun, a 4-man crew, a turret-mounted machine gun. Behind it, 2 more Panzer IV South, both with infantry support. 40 German soldiers in loose formation, hugging the armor, using the tanks as shields. Standard SS military doctrine was clear. Anti-tank warfare required defensive positions. Dig in. Establish kill zones. Engage from maximum range. Hold your ground until the tanks are destroyed or you are killed. Doctrine assumed you had support, assumed you had backup, assumed you had multiple anti-tank weapons covering overlapping kill zones. Curry had none of that. He had a bazooka for rockets and a stone wall that wouldn't stop a 75 millimeters tank shell. If he followed doctrine and stayed in one position, the Germans would pinpoint his location after the first shot. The tanks would zero in on him. He would be dead before he could fire a second rocket. But Curry had grown up an orphan. Grown up knowing that no one was coming to save him. Grown up learning to solve problems himself. And he had learned something at the orphanage in Loch Sheldrake, New York. When you are outnumbered and outgunned, you don't fight fair. You make the enemy think you are stronger than you are. You create the illusion of strength. Curry surveyed the battlefield, the stone wall where he was standing. 40 meters to his left, a ruined barn with equipment inside. 60 meters behind him, a wrecked American pickup truck with a .50 caliber machine gun still mounted on it. 80 meters to his right, disabled German tanks from yesterday's battle. 4 positions, all within sprinting distance, all with different firing angles. If he could hit the lead tank from the barn, then move to the pickup truck and fire from there. Then move to the disabled tanks and attack from a third location. The Germans would think they were facing multiple defenders, multiple bazookas, multiple soldiers coordinating fire. They would think the bridge was heavily defended. They would hesitate. They would call for reinforcements instead of pressing the attack. And hesitation was how you survived when you were outnumbered 40 to 1. Military manuals said, stay in one position. Curry was about to prove that those books were written by people who had never fought alone. Curry raised his Browning automatic rifle. The commander of the lead tank was visible in the turret hatch, scanning with binoculars. 280 meters, a difficult shot, but possible. He took aim, controlled his breathing. 4 shots. The German slumped backward, vanished into the turret. The tank kept rolling. Another commander took over, but now they knew someone was shooting. The tank's machine gun opened fire. Bullets tore chunks out of the stone wall. Curry ducked low. Rounds whizzed overhead. Stone fragments sprayed everywhere. Dirt and debris filled the air. He counted the seconds, waiting for a lull. 301. He sprinted towards the barn. Machine gun fire erupted behind him. Rounds snapped past. Too close, he dove behind a crater, rolled, kept moving. German infantry saw him, opened fire, rifles, submachine guns, the air thick with lead. He reached the barn, plunged through the doorway. Inside, darkness, smoke. His eyes adjusted. There, leaning against the wall, a bazooka, an M9A1, a 2.36-inch rocket launcher. Effective range 300 meters against armored vehicles. Beside it, 4 rockets. That was it. Another soldier was in the barn. Private First Class John Swanson, 22, from Wisconsin. He was taking cover there during the shelling. Curry grabbed the bazooka. Swanson grabbed the rockets. No words were exchanged. They moved to the side door of the barn. Saw the tanks advancing. Now 240 meters, still coming. Curry loaded the bazooka. Swanson slid a rocket into the tube. Checked the electrical contact. Armed the fuse. Ready, Curry stepped out of the doorway, exposing himself. Aimed at the lead tank, at the center of the hull where the frontal armor was thinnest. The bazooka bucked against his shoulder. The rocket screamed through the air, 240 meters in less than 2 seconds. Impact. The rocket struck the Panzer's turret ring, where the turret met the hull. The weakest point. Fire and smoke erupted. The turret shuddered, stopped moving. The tank rolled backward. The crew bailed out. Smoke billowed from the hatches. One down, but 2 more tanks were coming. And now they knew exactly where Curry was. The main gun of the 2nd Panzer swung towards the barn. A 75mm gun, high explosive round. If it hit, Curry and Swanson would be vaporized. Curry told Swanson to stay in the barn. "Keep the Germans looking this way." Then he ran. Not for cover, not for safety. He ran towards the wrecked American pickup truck 60 meters from his original position. German infantry saw him, a lone American soldier running across the open ground. They opened fire, rifles cracking, submachine guns chattering, bullets kicking up dirt around his feet. He didn't stop, didn't slow down. He reached the truck, dove behind it just as the German tank fired at the barn. The explosion ripped apart the barn wall where Curry had been standing 10 seconds earlier. Wood and debris flew everywhere. Part of the roof collapsed, but Curry wasn't there. The Germans were firing at a position he had already abandoned. From behind the truck, Curry had a clear shot at the 2nd tank, 180 meters. Closer than before. Better chance of penetration. But he didn't have the bazooka. He had left it with Swanson in the barn. The truck had a .50 caliber machine gun mounted on the roof. Curry scrambled up the wreck. The .50 caliber was still there. The ammunition belt was still loaded. He checked the mechanism. The bolt was jammed. A spent casing was stuck in the chamber. He ripped it out, pulled the charging handle, loaded a fresh round. German infantry were advancing, using the tank as cover. 40 meters from the 2nd Panzer. They thought Curry was still in the barn. They were moving to flank it. Curry opened fire. The .50 caliber machine gun was devastating. 12.7mm rounds, armor-piercing incendiary. Each round hit like a sledgehammer. He swept a stream of fire across the German infantry formation. They scattered, some falling, some diving for cover. The rest retreated back behind the tank. The Germans were confused. They had seen the flash from the barn. Now they were taking fire from a completely different location. How many American soldiers were defending this bridge? That confusion was exactly what Curry needed. While the Germans were pinned down by the .50 caliber machine gun, Curry heard a sound from the barn. Swanson was firing the bazooka. The 2nd rocket flew across the battlefield, striking the 2nd Panzer's lower frontal plate. The armor held, but the impact damaged the tank's tracks. The tank lurched, stopped. The crew tried to reverse. The left track came off mobility kill. The tank was immobilized. 2 down. German infantry were yelling, pointing. They had seen the bazooka shot come from the barn. They had seen the machine gun fire come from the truck. 2 different positions, 2 different weapons. They were reporting multiple American defenders. That was the trick. Move fast enough that the enemy can't track you. Fire from multiple locations. Create the illusion that you aren't alone. Make them think they are outnumbered when you are outnumbered 40 to 1. Curry abandoned the truck. The .50 caliber's barrel was overheating, smoking. They probably had 30 seconds before the Germans realized he had moved again. He sprinted towards the disabled German tanks from yesterday's battle, 80 meters across open ground. German infantry were still disoriented. Some were firing at the barn. Some were firing at the truck. No one was tracking the lone soldier running between positions. He reached the wrecked Panzer, dove behind it, found what he was looking for. Anti-tank grenades, M9, shape-charged warheads, designed to penetrate armor at close range. The dead American anti-tank crew had left them here when they were killed by artillery yesterday. Curry grabbed 4 grenades, stuffed them into his coat. The 3rd German tank was advancing, now 120 meters, moving cautiously. The crew had witnessed the destruction of the first 2 tanks. They were scanning for threats, looking for American anti-tank positions. They were looking for multiple defenders, multiple bazookas, multiple soldiers. They had no idea it was one man moving between 4 positions. Curry waited. Let the tank get closer. 100 meters, 90, 80. German infantry were advancing behind it, using the tank as cover. Standard tactics. At 70 meters, Curry stood up, exposing himself, raised his hand. German infantry saw him, opened fire, but they were 70 meters away. Rifle accuracy at that range was poor under the stress of combat. Curry threw the first grenade, not at the tank, but at the infantry behind it. The grenade landed on the ground between 2 Germans, detonated. The shaped charge exploded. Both Germans went down. The rest scattered, diving for cover. They had just seen another American position. First the barn, then the truck, now this. How many American soldiers were defending this bridge? The German tank commander saw Curry. 70 meters. Easy target. He swung the turret machine gun towards him. Curry threw the second grenade. This time, at the tank. It hit the turret, bounced, exploded next to the tank's right track. The explosion damaged the track. The tank stopped. The crew tried to reverse. The damaged track came off. Another mobility kill. 3 tanks, 3 hits, all immobilized or destroyed. German infantry were retreating. They had lost 3 tanks, maybe 15 men. The attack was stalling, but more importantly, they were calling in to their commander, reporting heavy American resistance, multiplay anti-tank positions, coordinated defense, requesting reinforcements. They had no idea it was one orphan with a bazooka, and the willingness to run towards tanks instead of running away from them. German radio communications from that day, now declassified from the 1st SS Panzer Division archives, reported encountering at least 12 to 15 American soldiers defending the Momadi Bridge. They reported coordinated anti-tank fire from multiple locations. They reported effective machine gun suppression fire. They reported encountering resistance that required reinforcements before continuing the attack. 12 to 15 soldiers. The intelligence officer who wrote that report analyzed the engagement, counted the firing positions, calculated the weapons used, concluded that no single soldier could move that fast or coordinate that many different attacks. That report was wrong. It was one man, a 19-year-old orphan who had learned something that military manuals never taught. When you are alone, make them think you aren't. But Francis Curry wasn't finished yet. The Germans were regrouping. They would be back, and next time they would bring more tanks, more infantry, more firepower. Probably at 20 minutes before the next attack. German artillery opened fire, 150mm guns, massive shells, each impact sending debris flying 50 meters into the air. K Company was taking casualties in the secondary positions. Men were dying in their foxholes. Direct hits. Nothing left to salvage. Curry saw 5 wounded American soldiers. They were pinned down near another wrecked pickup truck. German machine gun fire kept them pinned down. They couldn't move. Couldn't reach cover. If they stayed there, they would die, either from artillery or from the German infantry when the next assault came. Curry looked at those 5 men, looked at the German machine gun positions suppressing them, looked at the 400 meters of open ground between here and there. Every book on tactics said, don't do it. You are one soldier. You can't save 5 men under machine gun fire. You will die trying. Sabe yourself, retreat. That is doctrine. But Francis Curry had been an orphan since he was 12 years old, grown up in an orphanage. No one ever came to save him. No one ever helped him when he needed it. So he had learned something that orphans learned early. If someone needs help and no one else is coming, you help them yourself. He crawled towards the wounded men. 400 meters across open ground. Machine gun fire snapped overhead. Mortar rounds landed close enough to shower him with dirt. He reached them. 3 were wounded by shrapnel. 1 had a broken leg from an artillery blast. 1 had been shot through the shoulder. They couldn't walk. Curry would have to drag them, one by one. He grabbed the first man, Private Miller. Shrapnel wounds in his chest, bleeding badly. Curry looped his arms under Miller's shoulders, began to drag him backward. German machine gun fire intensified. They had seen movement, rounds impacting all around them. Curry kept moving, slowly, steadily, without panic. 60 meters to cover. Felt like 600. He got Miller to safety, turned him over to a medic, went back for the second, Private Kowalski. Broken leg, screaming in pain. Curry dragged him the same way. Machine gun fire the entire time. Mortar rounds falling closer and closer. Got him to safety. Went back. Third man, fourth man, fifth man. Each trip was a coin toss. Would a bullet find him? Would a mortar round land close enough? It didn't matter. Those men weren't going to die there. Not if Francis Curry could do something about it. He got all 5 men to safety. 5 men who should have died. 5 men who went home to their families after the war. 5 men who told their grandchildren about the orphan from New York who crawled through machine gun fire to drag them to safety. It was 11:43 a.m. By morning, the German forces had retreated. The assault on Normandy had failed. The bridge remained firmly in American hands, a testament to their resilience. The defensive perimeter held a bulwark against the enemy tide. 11,000 American soldiers were still supplied, still combat ready. Their morale bolstered by the improbable victory. The German offensive, once so promising, had ground to a halt at Normandy. Without that crucial bridge, the vaunted German armor could not advance through the sector. The entire northern thrust of the offensive was crippled, its momentum shattered, and it was all because of one 19-year-old boy, a private who refused to follow orders, refused to retreat, refused to fight according to the book. Captain Evan returned to the bridge at 2 p.m., his mind reeling from the reports he'd overheard on the radio. He'd heard of the devastating German casualties, the scores of tanks destroyed, the infantry repulsed again and again. He'd assumed reinforcements had arrived, that another company had moved up to bolster the bridge's defenses. Then he saw him. Private Francis Curry, sitting on the stone wall, calmly smoking a cigarette. His uniform was torn and grimy, his face blackened with the soot of gunpowder. His hands were burned, the price he'd paid for gripping the red-hot barrel of a machine gun. Evan, incredulous, asked where the reinforcements were. Curry simply said, "There weren't any, sir. Just me and Swanson." Swanson, his comrade, had been killed early in the fight. Evan stared in disbelief at the 3 shattered German tanks, their blackened hulks strewn across the landscape. He saw the scattered German equipment, the blood staining the pristine snow. Ayat took no. How many Germans had Curry faced? Curry shrugged. 3 tanks, maybe 40 infantry, maybe more.
"I lost count, sir."
Evan was dumbfounded. How could one man, armed with a bazooka, possibly take on 3 tanks? Curry explained, in a matter-of-fact tone, "I learned something growing up in that orphanage, sir. When nobody's coming to help you, you gotta help yourself. And when you're outnumbered, you gotta McKM. Think you ain't alone." It continued. I just kept moving between positions, firing from the shed, firing from that pickup truck, using the disabled tank for cover, throwing grenades, working that 50 cal like it was my own personal symphony. Made it look like there were more of us, more guns, a coordinated defense. The Germans, they thought they were attacking a heavily fortified position. He paused, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips. They were wrong, sir. It was just an orphan kid who figured out how to be everywhere at once. Evan stared at the young man, a mixture of awe and disbelief washing over him. This 19-year-old had just violated every tenet of military doctrine. He'd disobeyed a direct order. He'd engaged a vastly superior force without support. He'd moved between positions under fire instead of holding a defensive line. And he'd won. Evan, his voice tight, asked Curry if he knew he could be court-martialed for insubordination. Curry replied, "Yes, sir." He added quietly, "I'd rather face a court-martial than let 11,000 men die because I followed some dumb order." Evan shook his head. "There ain't gonna be no court-martial, Private," he declared. "What you did here today was the most brilliant piece of improvisational warfare I've ever seen in my 20 years of service. Then Evan did something unprecedented. He offered Curry the Medal of Honor, right there on the spot, without waiting for after-action reports or witness statements. He knew this story needed to be told, needed to be etched in the annals of military history. The citation, when it finally came, was 3 pages long, a testament to the sheer audacity of Curry's actions. Normally, Medal of Honor citations were concise, a terse listing of heroic deeds. But Curry's citation needed context. It needed explanation, because what he had done was so extraordinary, so unbelievable, that no one would believe it without a detailed account. In March of 1945, Curry was officially awarded the Medal of Honor. The ceremony took place in France, a somber affair amidst the ravages of war. Major General Leland Hobbs, the commander of the 30th Infantry Division, presented the medal. Curry stood at attention, a gaunt 19 years old, looking deeply uncomfortable in his clean uniform. He'd spent 4 months in combat, lost 60 pounds, and aged a decade. Hobbs read the citation, detailing each action, each act of courage, each moment of defiance. When he finished, he added something that wasn't in the official record, something witnessed by the 47 soldiers present at the ceremony. He said, Francis Curry did something that military theorists thought was impossible. He created a tactical illusion of force multiplication through movement and positioning. He made 40 German soldiers believe they were fighting 15 Americans. He turned 1 bazooka into 3 through speed and aggression. Most importantly, he proved that when doctrine fails, you improvise. When the brass tells you to retreat, you assess whether that order makes a damn bit of sense. When you're outnumbered, you change the enemy's perception of the battlefield. Obispo said, his voice thick with emotion. That, gentlemen, is the definition of tactical genius. Not following orders, but making decisions that save lives, even when those decisions violate every page in the military handbook. General Dwight D. Eisenhower, Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces, met with Curry in April of 1945. Eisenhower had read the citation, read the German after-action reports, compared the 2 accounts. They spoke for 20 minutes. Eisenhower asked Curry how he knew the ghost soldier method would work. Curry said, I didn't, sir. I just knew that staying in one place meant death. Moving meant survival, so I moved. Eisenhower pressed, Did you learn this tactic in training? Private Curry replied, No, sir. I learned it growing up as an orphan. When nobody's coming to help you, you figure things out for yourself. When you're alone, you make them think you ain't. Eisenhower reportedly told him that his actions at Normandy had prevented a German breakthrough in the northern Ardennes sector. Without that bridge, the German armor could not have advanced. Without that advance, the entire offensive would have lost its momentum. The Battle of the Bulge ended sooner because Francis Curry refused to retreat. The following is an excerpt from Eisenhower's personal diary. December 1945. The battle at Normandy proved that tactical innovation under pressure is more valuable than strict adherence to doctrine. Private Curry's decision to disobey orders and defend that bridge may have saved thousands of lives and shortened the German offensive by weeks. His method of creating the illusion of multiple defenders should be studied at every military tactics school. But here's what made Francis Curry truly extraordinary. It wasn't his marksmanship. It wasn't his raw courage. It was his understanding of human psychology under the brutal conditions of combat. The German soldiers weren't defeated by superior firepower. They were defeated by confusion, by uncertainty, by the belief that they were outnumbered when they were the ones with the numerical advantage. It was psychological warfare at its finest, making the enemy defeat themselves through their own fear and hesitation. German intelligence classified Normandy as heavily defended after that engagement, recommending avoiding direct assault, recommending bypassing it altogether. Because of Francis Curry, the Germans believed Normandy was too difficult to target. They chose not to attack. They diverted resources elsewhere. They abandoned that entire axis of advance. One soldier, one bridge, changed the entire tactical calculus of the German offensive in that sector. The German soldiers who faced Curry at Normandy never knew it was one man. They died, believing they had been ambushed by a prepared defensive line. They died, believing that the American forces were stronger, better coordinated, and more dangerous than intelligence had reported. They never knew the truth. That a 19-year-old orphan had single-handedly disrupted their offensive with nothing more than improvisation, aggression, and a stubborn refusal to die on German terms. After the war, Francis Curry didn't become a celebrity. There were no book deals, no speaking tours, no movie adaptations. He joined the Veterans Affairs Medical Center in Albany, New York, working as a counselor, helping other veterans cope with what they had seen, what they had done. He rarely spoke about the war. When reporters contacted him on anniversaries, he politely declined interviews, saying he was just doing his job, saying there were many other soldiers who had done more. That humility was the final piece of the puzzle that made him extraordinary. He never saw himself as special. He was just an orphan kid who had learned how to survive. Belgium was just another problem to solve. 3 tanks. Solve it with movement and positioning. German infantry. Solve it by making them believe you're not alone. Wounded soldiers. Solve it by dragging them to safety. No drama, no emotion. Just cold, tactical problem solving. Under conditions that would have broken most men, his fellow soldiers never forgot. The men of K Company, 3rd Battalion, 119th Infantry Regiment, held reunions after the war. Curry was always the guest of honor, even when he didn't want to be. One by one, the soldiers would stand up and tell their story of the day they saw one man stop 3 tanks. Of the day they realized that courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about being terrified and still doing what needed to be done of the day. They learned that sometimes the most fearsome soldier isn't the one who kills the most, but the one who makes the enemy too afraid to attack in the first place. Francis Sherman Curry passed away on October 8, 2019. He was 94 years old. He died peacefully in New York, surrounded by his family. His obituary listed his decorations: the Medal of Honor, the Silver Star, the Bronze Star, 3 Purple Hearts, the Belgian Order of Leopold. But the true measure of his life wasn't in the medals. It was in the 11,000 American soldiers who came home from Belgium because a bridge did unfall. It was in the 5 wounded men who survived because someone crawled through machine fire to drag them to safety. It was in the German soldiers who hesitated, who retreated, who chose not to attack because they believed the American defenses were too strong. It was all because of an orphan kid who refused to be a victim, refused to retreat, and refused to follow doctrine that didn't make sense. Francis Sherman Curry was the definition of tactical genius, not because he was brutal or not because he reveled in killing, but because he understood something that most soldiers never learn. The enemy's perception of the battlefield is more important than the actual situation. He made elitist troops hesitate, made them doubt their intelligence, made them retreat when they should have overrun his position. That was psychological dominance, making the enemy defeat themselves through their own fear and insecurity. On December 21st, 1944, 40 German soldiers and 3 SS tanks attacked a bridge in Normandy, Belgium. They expected weak resistance, perhaps a few American soldiers holding a tenuous defensive line. Instead, they found Francis Sherman Curry, and he destroyed them by making them believe they were outnumbered. 3 tanks burned. 20 German soldiers died. The survivors retreated in disarray, all wondering the same thing. How many Americans were defending that bridge? They never found out. They never knew it was one man. They died, believing that the American forces were stronger than intelligence had reported. They died believing they had been ambushed by a well-coordinated defense. That is the true legacy of Francis Sherman Curry. Not the medals, not the recognition. The legacy lies in the minds of the German soldiers who faced him and decided that retreat was better than fighting. The legacy lies in the tactical innovation he created under pressure, moving between positions too quickly for the enemy to track him, creating the illusion of an overwhelming force using nothing but speed and aggression. The legacy lies in the 11,000 American soldiers who returned home to their families because one orphan kid refused to let a bridge fall, and hardly anyone knows his name. If this story moved you as much as it moved us, please do me a favor. Hit the like button. Each like tells YouTube to show this story to more people who care about forgotten heroes. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We're rescuing these stories from the archives and obscurity every week. You're not just a viewer, you're part of keeping these memories alive. Let us know where you're from. Let us know if someone in your family served. Just let us know you're here. Fluid movement, constant repositioning. That was the German infantrymen's response to fear, the way they deceived the enemy, making them believe they weren't alone on the harrowing battlefield. And for the wounded soldiers, the only solution was to crawl, drag, and pull each other to a place of cover, a sanctuary where they could temporarily escape the storm of bombs and bullets. There was no room for weakness, for tears, or only coldness, rationality, and the ability to solve tactical problems with a clear head, even when the dire circumstances could shatter anyone's will. His comrades, those who witnessed that bravery, never forgot. K Company, 3rd Battalion, 119th Infantry Regiment, later became a family, gathering together in reunions after the war. And Francis Sherman Curry, whether he wanted to or not, was always the most special guest of honor. One by one, they stood up, their voices choked with emotion, and recounted the story of that day, the day they personally witnessed a lone soldier stopping 3 ferocious tanks. The day they suddenly realized that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the ability to overcome extreme terror, to do what needed to be done. The day they understood that sometimes the most terrifying soldier isn't the one who kills the most, but the one who can make the enemy tremble so much that they don't dare to attack. Francis Sherman Curry passed away peacefully on October 8th at the age of 94. He took his last breath in New York, embraced by the warm arms of his family. His obituary listed a series of prestigious decorations: the Medal of Honor, the Silver Star, the Bronze Star, 3 Purple Hearts, and the esteemed Belgian Order of Leopold. But the true measure of his extraordinary life didn't lie in those sparkling medals. It was the 11,000 American soldiers who safely returned home from the hell of Belgium, simply because a bridge remained standing. It was the 5 wounded soldiers who miraculously survived, thanks to a brave comrade crawling through machine gun fire to save them from the scythe of death. It was the hesitation, the retreat of the German soldiers, those who chose not to attack, because they believed the American defenses were too fortified. All of it was thanks to an orphan kid, one who refused to succumb to fate, refused to retreat, and refused to follow nonsensical doctrines. Francis Sherman Curry. He was the very definition of a tactical genius, not because of brutality, not because of a joy for killing, but because he understood a truth that not every soldier can grasp. The enemy's perception of the battlefield is far more important than the actual situation. He made the most elite SS units falter, doubt their own intelligence, retreat when they should have been able to crush his position. That was psychological dominance, the ability to make the enemy bring about their own defeat through their own fear and insecurity. On December 21st, 1944, 40 German soldiers and 3 aggressive SS tanks attacked a vital bridge in Normandy, Belgium. They believed that they would only encounter weak resistance, perhaps just a few American soldiers trying to hold a fragile defensive line. But instead, they encountered Francis Sherman Curry, and he crushed them by making them believe that they were facing an overwhelming force. 3 tanks burned fiercely. 20 German soldiers perished. The survivors, in utter panic, retreated in chaos and wondered the same question: how many Americans are defending this bridge? They never got the answer. They never knew that only one soldier had performed the miracle. They died, carrying the belief that the American forces were much stronger than what intelligence had reported. They died, believing that they had fallen into a carefully planned ambush. That is the real legacy of Francis Sherman Curry. Not the glittering medals, not the recognition from the world. His legacy lies deep in the minds of the German soldiers who faced him and decided that retreat was a better option than fighting. His legacy lies in the daring tactical innovations that he created under tremendous pressure. The ability to move lightning fast between positions, making it impossible for the enemy to track him, creating the illusion of a powerful force with nothing more than speed and aggression. His legacy lies in the survival of 11,000 American soldiers, those who were able to return home to their families thanks to an orphan kid who would unallow a bridge to fall. And sadly, almost no one knows his name. If this story touched your heart as much as it touched ours, please help us with one small thing. Click the like button. Each like is a signal for YouTube to spread this story to more people, those who care about forgotten heroes. Please click the subscribe button and turn on notifications so that we can together rescue forgotten stories from archives and shadows every week. You're not just a viewer. You're part of an effort to keep these memories alive. Let us know where you're from. Let us know if someone in your family served the country. Just let us know that you are here, listening and remembering.